Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling some pretty big questions like immortality, the universe, and how it all connects back to you.
Oh, wow. That sounds intense.
It is. And we've got an interesting mix of sources for this one.
Oh, lay it on me.
So you send over this transcript from a YouTube video exploring immortality from a spiritual perspective.
Okay.
And then we've got this article about unsolved mysteries in astronomy.
It is kind of interesting how both of those sources, in their own ways, are grappling with the vastness of existence.
Exactly. It's like even though they're coming at it from totally different angles, they're both kind of asking these fundamental questions about life, the universe, and everything.
Right. And you've been exploring these ideas of immortality both from like a spiritual and a scientific perspective. So
Yeah.
we're going to take a deep dive into these mind-bending concepts, pull out the most thought-provoking points, and see where they connect.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right, so this YouTube video, Das Mysterium der Unsterblichkeit, gelingt der Ausstieg aus dem Rad der Wiedergeburt. It comes from the channel In Spirit Sein TV,
Okay.
and it jumps right into a really compelling question.
Okay. What's that?
It asks, why would we even strive for physical immortality if we are already spiritually eternal?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? It kind of seems counterintuitive at first.
It does. But Jang the YouTuber argues that our individual consciousness, what they call the I spark, needs a physical body to evolve and eventually merge back with our higher selves.
Hmm. So it's like we need this physical experience to actually grow and learn.
That's a good way to put it. You can think of it like a seed needing soil, water, and sunlight to grow into a tree.
Well, that's a good analogy.
Right. The physical world, with all its challenges and experiences, acts as a training ground for our I spark.
That makes sense. So how do we actually achieve this immortality then?
Well, the video describes a really fascinating process of transforming not just our physical bodies, but also something called the astral and etheric bodies.
Astral and etheric bodies? Those sound pretty out there.
I know, right?
What are those exactly?
So think of the astral body as like the seat of your emotions and desires.
Okay.
It's a subtler layer of your being that also needs refining on this journey.
Okay.
And then the etheric body is even subtler. It's like the energetic blueprint for your physical form, and it's closely linked to your life force energy.
So we have these multiple layers to our being. What does it actually look like to transform them?
Well, the video suggests several different pathways.
Like what?
One of them is shadow work.
Shadow work.
Yeah, have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is.
So basically, it's where you confront and integrate those aspects of yourself that you tend to hide,
Oh,
like your fear, your anger, your jealousy, all the stuff we try to push down.
yeah.
The idea is that by integrating these shadow parts, we release trapped energy that can then fuel our spiritual growth.
So it's like facing our inner demons to unlock our full potential.
Exactly. And the video also emphasizes healing past traumas, both emotional and physical,
Right.
because those can leave energetic imprints that hinder our spiritual progress.
Almost like energetic scar tissue.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, there's the big one, ethical living, treating others with kindness, compassion, and integrity.
So basically aligning our actions with our highest values.
Exactly.
It's interesting how this idea of inner work echoes some of the themes in the astronomy article.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, even though it's focused on the vastness of the universe,
Yeah.
it also kind of highlights the importance of understanding ourselves and our place in the cosmos.
Absolutely.
It's like we have to explore both the inner and outer worlds to really get the full picture.
Right. And for example, the article dives into this whole mystery of dark matter and dark energy, these unseen forces that shape the universe.
Right.
And what's fascinating is how this ties into the idea of unseen influences, much like the spiritual energies that Jang was talking about.
Yeah, it's like we're talking about forces beyond our normal perception that still have a profound impact on reality.
Totally mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. And speaking of mind-blowing, the article also tackles the origin of life.
Oh, right.
And it mentions this experiment, the Miller-Urey experiment,
Yeah.
which successfully created organic molecules in a lab setting. But scientists still haven't figured out how those molecules made the leap to actual life.
Right. It's like there's this missing piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And it kind of connects with the YouTuber's emphasis on conscious effort towards spiritual evolution.
So both sources are pointing to this gap in our understanding of how consciousness arises and persists.
Yeah, it's like a mystery that both science and spirituality are trying to unravel.
Right. And while Jang focuses on this individual path to immortality, the article kind of zooms out to the grander stage of the cosmos.
Okay.
And there are some pretty incredible connections there, too.
Like what?
Well, the article talks about supermassive black holes.
Supermassive black holes. That sounds intense.
It is. They are these cosmic giants, millions or even billions of times more massive than our sun.
Oh.
And they're lurking at the centers of galaxies.
You don't even know where they came from.
Nope, their origins are still a complete mystery.
That's crazy.
It is. But what's fascinating is how they seem to be tied into these cycles of creation and destruction that are happening on a universal scale.
So it's like the universe itself is going through a process of death and rebirth.
Yeah, far grander than we typically imagine.
Wow. That's making me rethink my whole perspective on things.
It is pretty mind-blowing.
Sounds a lot like Jang's ideas about cycles of reincarnation and the evolution of consciousness.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like the individual journey is reflecting this cosmic dance of creation and destruction.
That's deep.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
What's the next layer of this cosmic onion?
Well, Jang draws a distinction between achieving immortality organically through spiritual effort and a synthetic path through technology. And they warn that messing with technology to achieve immortality could actually lead us down a fallen timeline.
A fallen timeline. What do you mean by that?
Jang actually draws parallels to the fall of Atlantis.
Atlantis, like the lost city.
Exactly. They describe it as this civilization that became too reliant on technology and lost its spiritual connection.
So it's a cautionary tale about the potential dangers of technology.
Right, so we've got this spiritual evolution towards immortality happening on a personal level.
Yeah.
But there's this concern that technology could throw a wrench in the works, maybe even on a civilization-wide scale.
This is blowing my mind.
It is pretty wild.
And you know what? If you're enjoying these mind-blowing deep dives, make sure to check out our YouTube channel, Top 10, for even more fascinating explorations.
Now, this idea of technology as a double-edged sword is something that resonates with the astronomy article as well.
Really? How so?
Well, while the article doesn't directly address spiritual matters, it does mention the potential dangers of technology outpacing our wisdom and understanding.
I can see that.
It even hints at this through the current race to colonize other planets.
It's like giving a toddler a chainsaw.
Right, exactly. Powerful, but potentially disastrous.
So even though these sources come from totally different perspectives, they both seem to be urging us to proceed with caution, to really consider the implications of our choices, both individually and as a species.
That's a great way to sum it up.
And that raises a really crucial question. Are WE, with our rapidly advancing technology, becoming the very force that disrupts natural evolution?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Could history repeat itself in a way we haven't even imagined?
Those are some really big questions.
And it leads us to even more questions about this interplay between technology and spirituality, which we'll explore further in part 2 of this deep dive.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. So last time we were talking about how Jang warned about technology potentially disrupting our natural progress towards immortality, even leading to a fallen timeline scenario.
Right. And they even compared it to the fall of Atlantis.
Exactly. They described Atlantis as a civilization that got so caught up in technology that they lost their spiritual connection.
A classic cautionary tale.
Yeah. But before we get too deep into those warnings, let's back up for a second.
Okay.
We were talking about those subtle energy bodies, the astral and etheric, that need to be transformed alongside our physical bodies for true immortality.
Right.
What does that actually look like?
Yeah, how do we even wrap our heads around that?
Well, Jang explains that each of these bodies is composed of different kinds of energy, or like elemental forces.
Okay.
For instance, the astral body, think of it as like the seat of your emotions and desires.
Right.
It's linked to what some traditions call the lower self.
So it's not just about living forever in our current physical forms.
Nope.
It's about evolving our consciousness as a whole.
Exactly. It's about refining these energies, bringing them into alignment with our higher selves, with that ice spark that's trying to evolve.
That makes sense.
And the etheric body is even more subtle. You can imagine it as like the energetic blueprint for your physical form. Okay.
It's connected to your life force energy.
So it's kind of like our vital battery keeping us powered up.
That's a good analogy.
So how do we transform these bodies? What does that process actually involve?
Zhang describes a few different practices.
Like what?
We already touched on shadow work.
Right, where you confront and integrate those aspects of yourself that you tend to hide.
Yeah, like your fear, your
Yeah.
anger, your jealousy, all that stuff we usually try to push down.
It sounds like intense work.
It can be,
Hmm.
but the idea is to bring those shadow parts into the light of awareness.
And Zhang also talked about the importance of healing past traumas, right?
Yes. Emotional and physical traumas can leave these energetic imprints that can block our spiritual progress.
Hmm. So it's not just about our thoughts and actions in this life, but also about addressing any lingering wounds from the past. That
There's-
makes sense.
And of course, there's ethical living, treating others with kindness, compassion, and integrity.
Right, aligning our actions with our highest values. Sounds like a pretty holistic approach, addressing both our inner and outer worlds. Absolutely. But I still have a question.
Shoot,
Why does all this matter if we're already spiritually eternal?
that's a great question.
Like, if our souls are already immortal, why do we need to go through all this trouble?
Zhang suggests that if we don't do this inner work, if we don't refine those subtle bodies, our eye spark can get stuck.
Stuck.
Yeah, weighed down by unresolved energies and past traumas. It's like trying to fly with heavy baggage.
So we're holding ourselves back.
Exactly. We might still be eternal in some sense, but we're limiting our potential.
So we're essentially cleaning up our energetic house, clearing out the clutter to make space for that ice spark to shine through.
That's a great way to put it. Now remember Zhang's warning about technology?
Oh yeah, the whole fallen timeline thing.
Right. Here's where things get really tricky.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Zhang believes that attempting to achieve immortality through purely technological means things like genetic engineering transhumanism. Even the idea of colonizing other planets to escape a dying Earth could backfire. Instead of achieving a higher state of being, we end up in a fallen timeline scenario.
Exactly. They argue that these technological approaches are kind of like shortcuts.
Shortcuts.
Yeah, shortcuts that bypass the necessary inner work, the refining of those astral and etheric bodies.
So it's like trying to build a skyscraper without a solid foundation.
Right, you need that inner foundation to support those higher levels of being.
And it's interesting how this idea connects with the astronomy article, even though it's looking at things from a scientific perspective.
Tell me more about that.
Well, the article, while not explicitly about spiritual matters, also expresses concerns about the potential consequences of technology outpacing our wisdom.
I see what you mean.
For example, the article discusses the Fermi paradox.
Oh yeah, the whole where is everybody?
Exactly.
Whatever.
If the universe is teeming with planets that could support life, why haven't we encountered any other intelligent civilizations?
Right, it's a pretty big mystery.
And one chilling possibility is that advanced civilizations might have a tendency to self-destruct through their own technological advancements.
A cosmic cautionary tale.
It is, and it definitely echoes Zhang's warnings about the potential pitfalls of technology.
Doesn't it? It's like we have this amazing power at our fingertips, but we don't always know how to use it wisely.
And the article also highlights the risks of artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yeah, suggesting that we need to proceed with caution when developing technologies that could potentially surpass human control.
It's a theme that seems to be popping up everywhere these days. This idea that technology can be a double-edged sword.
Totally.
It can be a powerful tool for good, but it can also lead to unintended consequences.
And Zhang's perspective adds another layer to this conversation.
What's that?
They suggest that technology can even impact our subtle energy bodies, disrupting our spiritual progress.
Really? How so?
Well, Zhang believes that our overuse of technology, particularly those technologies that emit artificial electromagnetic fields, can disrupt the functioning of our etheric and astral bodies.
So basically, our devices are creating a kind of electromagnetic smog.
Yeah, and it's interfering with our subtle energy systems.
Wow. That's a pretty radical idea.
It is, and Zhang argues that this disruption can make us more susceptible to external influences, less able to discern truth from falsehood, and more prone to falling into those fallen timelines we discussed earlier.
I can see how that would make sense.
You know, this reminds me of that time I tried meditating in a busy airport.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about electromagnetic smog. It was impossible to find any inner peace.
I can only imagine.
But it highlights a crucial point. It's not necessarily the technology itself is evil.
Right.
It's about how we use it and whether we're aware of its potential impact on us on all levels of our being.
So what's the solution? Should we all just ditch our smartphones and move to a remote cabin in the woods?
Well, that's certainly one option.
Yeah, off-the-grid living.
But Jang also talks about the possibility of conscious technology.
Conscious technology, what does that even mean?
Technologies that are developed and used in a way that supports our spiritual evolution rather than hinders it.
So using technology as a tool for growth rather than a distraction.
Exactly.
That's a pretty cool concept.
They even talk about things like crystal technology, which they claim was used in Atlantis during its more enlightened periods to amplify and harmonize human consciousness.
Crystals. That sounds pretty far out there.
I know, right? But I get the overall point.
That's that.
It's about challenging our assumptions about what technology is and what it can be.
Right, we tend to think of technology as purely material, but what if it could also be spiritual?
Exactly. What if we could use technology as a tool for spiritual exploration and evolution?
That's a really interesting question.
How can we create technologies that help us connect more deeply with ourselves and the universe around us?
Those are some really big questions, and I bet our listeners have even more.
Speaking of our amazing listeners, if you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure to check out our YouTube channel, Top 10, for even more mind-expanding content.
Now, in the final part of this deep dive, we'll explore some of Zhang's specific recommendations for navigating a world increasingly shaped by technology, and we'll connect those ideas with the scientific perspective on responsible technological development.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. So we've covered a lot of ground, from transforming subtle energy bodies to the potential downsides of technology.
And now it's time to bring it all home, right? Like, how can we actually navigate this world where spirituality and technology seem to be on a collision course?
Right, it's like a head-on collision in slow motion.
Totally. And Zhang offers some pretty practical advice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, based on their understanding of esoteric traditions and the challenges of this modern age.
Okay, I'm all ears.
One of the key things they emphasize is discernment.
Discernment.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the information we consume and the technologies we use.
Right.
They talk about the rise of what they call hypnotic technologies, things designed to capture our attention and influence our thinking.
You mean like social media algorithms? Addictive apps?
Exactly. Even certain types of media that just bombard us with stimulation, often without us even realizing it.
It's like we're constantly being bombarded with information and stimulation.
And Zhang suggests that these technologies can actually weaken our connection to our higher selves.
So we're less able to access our own inner wisdom.
Right, and more susceptible to manipulation.
It's like being bombarded with so much external noise that we lose touch with our internal compass.
Exactly. So how do we counter that?
Yeah, what's the antidote to this hypnotic technology?
Zhang recommends cultivating inner stillness.
Inner stillness.
Yeah, that quiet space within where we can connect with our intuition and higher guidance.
So it's about finding that peaceful space amidst all the chaos.
Right, and there are different practices that can help with this, like meditation, spending time in nature, engaging in creative activities, anything that helps us tap into that flow state.
We're less distracted by external stimuli.
Exactly. It's about creating a space where we can actually hear that still small voice within the voice of our higher self.
It's like tuning out the noise of the world so we can hear our own inner wisdom.
Exactly. And Zhang also emphasizes the importance of community.
Community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connecting with like-minded individuals who are also on a path of conscious evolution.
So it's about surrounding ourselves with people who support our growth.
Right. It's like we're all part of this giant web of consciousness, and our individual choices and actions create a ripple effect that influences the whole.
We can amplify each other's positive energy.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that even from a scientific perspective, there's growing evidence to support these ideas.
Really?
Yeah. For example, there's been a lot of research on the effects of meditation and mindfulness on brain function.
Right, I've read about that. Studies have shown that these practices can actually change brainwave patterns, reduce stress hormones, and enhance areas of the brain associated with focus, compassion, and self-awareness.
Exactly. So while science and spirituality might use different languages, there seems to be some convergence around the idea that training our minds and cultivating inner peace are essential for navigating the complexities of modern life.
It's like science is catching up with what spiritual traditions have known for centuries.
Right. And what I find really inspiring is that both sources, despite their different approaches, agree that our individual choices really do matter.
We're not just passive bystanders in this cosmic play.
Exactly. We have the power to choose the path of transformation, to align ourselves with those higher forces that support our growth.
And the scientific article, while exploring the mysteries of the universe, also hints at this idea of human agency.
Right, we have a responsibility to use our knowledge and technology wisely.
It's almost as if both sources are urging us to wake up, pay attention, and realize that the choices we make, the actions we take, have a real impact.
Both on our own journey and on the collective destiny of humanity.
So as you move forward, consider this. Are you consciously participating in your own evolution?
Are you cultivating those qualities of discernment, inner stillness, and connection that can help you navigate these challenging times?
And are you using your knowledge, your talents, your energy to create a world that supports the flourishing of all beings? A world that's in harmony with the wisdom of the universe?
Those are some deep dive questions for sure.
And we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep seeking those answers that resonate with your own heart and soul.
And remember, you're not alone on this journey.
There are countless others out there who are also seeking, also striving, also contributing to the awakening of consciousness on this planet.
So connect with them, share your insights, support each other.
And together, let's create a future that's worthy of the incredible potential that lies within each and every one of us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
And for more mind-expanding explorations, head over to our YouTube channel, Top 10.
We'll see you there.